It's been 9 months since engineer Bayo Ojulari took the helm of NNPC Limited, appointed Group Chief Executive Officer by President Bola Tinubu. Despite assurances of stability, tough questions remain. Nigeria is still missing its OPEC production quota, output targets appear increasingly ambitious, and uncertainty surrounds the future of the state-owned refineries. Together, these issues have intensified scrutiny of NNPC's corporate governance. Now, for the first time since his appointment, Ojulari breaks his silence. In an exclusive one-on-one with Bayo at the 9th Nigerian International Energy Summit, he addresses the doubts, the decisions, and the direction of Nigeria's national oil company.
It really is such an honor to be sitting here with you today, Engineer Bayo Ojulari, because you came at the helm at a time when public distrust was at an all-time high with NNPC, and there was a culture that had been created that, most statements were met with suspicion when the public received them. So this was quite a time. I can't imagine what was going through your head when you received the communication, accepted the appointment, and so forth. Nevertheless, over time, we've seen various goals and targets being pronounced, whether it be 1.8 million barrels per day with or a target of 2 million barrels per day. Yesterday's, hope, if I may call it that, was 3 million barrels per day in the next 5 years. And many people will ask, these numbers seem lofty. Are they based on anything empirical? Is this us wishing our way to success? How do we get those things done? The increase in production you're talking about. Where's the place you would isolate and say, this is the one place I'm going to focus on, so that we can ramp up? And then, realistically speaking, what's the real number we should be looking at in terms of our daily output until those changes happen?
Yeah, thanks. So I'm not the CC for NUPRC, so I have to be very, very careful.
Of course.
So no, but it's a very good question. But NNPC contributes about 95% or is in partnerships. In generating about 95% of our production. So we can almost say that what we do as NNPC sort of defined broadly, but we also have to recognize there are other independents that are not under the purview of NNPC, that are directly under the purview of NUPRC. So NUPRC is in a better position to give you the final number. But I'll tell you about this 95%, which I think is quite material, right? So I think the first thing is to separate three things, right? Separate political numbers from aspirations and from plans. So every time anybody mentions any number, please check who they are.
Check for empirical facts.
You have to, because you don't need to challenge them. Yeah. But, you have to check, because we all play different roles. Politicians have their roles. Without them, we cannot be here. We don't have a people coming. And they have their views, right? There is aspirations because of where you want to get to, and there is a plan. One of the things I'm most proud of the current NNPC leadership is that for the first time, the government's plan for the next 3 years is based on our submission. Yes. So, and I'll give you some. So last year, after we came in, of course, we do know that there were aspirational targets. That's what I would call them. They were not necessarily the plan. By my interpretation of a 2.06, how the interpretations of that predated, my arrival. So when I came in, of course, we quickly looked together with my leadership team and went to our board to say, look, we cannot deliver this plan. We can't see the building blocks that add to it. And we immediately, within a month, we submitted a revised plan on a monthly basis for the rest of 2025 to say this is what we can do. That revised plan was 1.703 or so. We delivered at the end of the year average of about 1.7. So we delivered our part. I think we began to get, it requires a couple of things: communication, education, and be prepared to be challenged. It's not that you give a number, people should just accept. You should be open to challenge. So with also that, with that transparency, you got nothing to fear, right? So as we move towards the end of the year, we struggled a bit. We were able to then put together what our 3-year plan was. And also for 2026, we put in a monthly forecast plan, which we engaged the Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Budget and Planning, the Central Bank, and other critical areas. I engaged them personally, one-on-one, to say this is what we're seeing. Following that, we then issued a formal letter from NNPC to NUPRC, copied to all these parties to say, this is our projections over the year. I was very, very pleased when I realized that the Federal Executive Council, when they had their meetings, they adopted our number as the basis for the main plan. So that for me was excellent. They also did one thing which is important. They also put in the aspiration, which is called the target of 2 million barrels for 2026. So for this year, we have a target of 2 million barrels, but the plan, the budget, is based on about 1.8 plus. So we are not overcommitting. One of the financial problems that Nigeria went into last year, back to your point, why this is very, very important, was because of that overprojection. We overprojected the production, hence overprojected the revenue. So we ran into crisis by the middle of the year. Not only was oil price lower, our production was also lower. So, and meanwhile, each parastatals has already made projections based on those plans. So those things have far-reaching consequences. And I think having a credible plan should not just be seen as a tick in the box. We all need to ensure that we have a credible plan. Now, for us as NNPC, we are also quite vulnerable. We're not perfect. We have our own vulnerabilities. But we did something unique last year. Unlike what used to happen in the past, after our plans was built, based on input from our partners, that takes some time, about 3 months before you finish. We move forward with that. We didn't do that. By the time we finished that plan, I went back to the MDs of the companies myself to say, please confirm that you will deliver on this plan and on this budget. And half of them said, no, they can't. Right. So we went through another cycle of 2 months, and sometimes time lapsed. So by the time we concluded, not solely because I say this because leaders have accountability. We shouldn't just leave everything and say, oh, the guys have done the work. You are accountable for that promise to the country, and that's a serious stuff. So it's easy for me to say, well, all of these people have submitted these numbers. After all, it's them, and then go and submit it. I have to be accountable. So, and what we did is we then went back to all our partners to double check, and they all reviewed the plan. So I feel more confident that, first of all, the plan that we have is not just about an NNPC plan, it's a representation of a plan of our partners, and is hence more credible. Do I think we will deliver on this year's plan? Absolutely, yes. I believe so. I think we will deliver on the plan. And I'm just holding that. I hope the oil price, those who can pray for the oil price to say, oh, please, we need all the prayers for the oil price to be at the right level so that the revenue projections meet our demand. You talk about OPEC. I think OPEC is slightly different. Luckily, we have our OPEC representative here. Don't hide, though. Ajia, you cannot hide. Ajia Miriam, stand up, show yourself. You have nowhere to hide. Ajia Miriam. So that's our national OPEC representative working with the OPEC governor, Adeyemi Bayo. OPEC is a slightly different ballgame, right? I think with OPEC, what we want to position ourselves is around our capacity to produce. So because sometimes when we talk about not meeting OPEC plan, we need to moderate that a little bit. I know a lot of people may not really understand this, right? So OPEC is, what we try to project in OPEC is to put in our aspirations. Because you do not want to be in a position where you're able to raise your game, get your plans, sort out your security, some of your partners come with additional funds or come with accelerated and you're stuck. So the way we position ourselves with OPEC is about what our capacity is, almost what, beating OPEC plan is nice, right? I mean, because I'm saying that they are going ahead to seek for a higher OPEC than the plan. So now, we will approach and fight towards meeting it. Let's call a spade, right? And that's the aspiration. But we do not necessarily want an OPEC approval that is just exactly what we can do. That's not. We need to bring in some redundancy in there. So it's important that we do deliver or beat our OPEC projections, or which is our aspirations. But I would just want all of us as industry professionals to moderate that comment a little bit, to recognize that we do seek a bit of buffer when we go to seek for our ability to. It's not like what the operators do when they go to NUPRC for production alliables. You know, are we together? I'm looking and smile. We know what we do. You know, when you go to seek for DPR production alliable, you don't put in exactly. You give yourself a little bit of room so that you can step up. So that's the 2 point I like to say around OPEC.
I love that your wealth of experience in the sector and the industry really does shine through as you take us through this. And I think that's another breath of fresh air that many would say is a welcome development from NNPC. But when we talk about credible plans and aspirations, one of the first topics that comes up where NNPC is concerned is refineries. I paid close attention to the president's speech yesterday as delivered by the Vice President, Senator Kashim Shettima, who said that the rehabilitation of state-owned refineries has gained momentum, which is confusing for many people, especially the 200 million shareholders of NNPC who are Nigerians, who say, what does this mean? Because these refineries have worked, they haven't worked. Are they going to be sold? Are we going to keep spending money on them? What's the plan?
Yeah. So, you know, when we talk about refinery, most times I always look for where to hide. But now you put me on the stage, there's nowhere to hide. So
you're up to the task, sir.
Hey, yes. Okay. So thank you for the fantastic questions, and I'll talk about the national refinery, and also talk about broadly our view in terms of refinery in general. So if you had asked, if you noticed my response when we came in, the refineries was a hot cake. Based on what you said, Nigerians were angry, a lot of money has been spent, expectations were very high. So we're under extreme pressure. And to be honest, I didn't understand much of refinery myself. For those who know, my background is upstream. So I was on a vertical learning curve, personally. Some of my colleagues we try to tap into the knowledge of people who know and all of that. But again, you are accountable. So you have to learn very, very fast. Otherwise, there's no escape and all of that. So we've been learning. But the first thing that was very clear, and I would like all of us to note, and is that my leadership team, within a very short time, wanted to understand what was happening in the refinery. And I want to say that very clearly. The first thing that became clear is that we were running at a monumental loss to Nigeria. We were just wasting money. I can say that confidently now. So the first decisions I had to make was to stop the rot by ensuring that we stop. And first of all, calibrate quickly, rebase, to see what do we do. You wonder how we're losing money. We were pumping a cargo every month into the refineries. The utilization of those cargoes was maybe like 50%, right? That cargo is worth a lot. We're spending a lot of money in the operations, a lot of money on the contractors. But if you then look at the net, we're just leaking away a lot of value. And there was no clarity on what is the plan to turn that loss into positive, right? Sometimes you make a loss, maybe when you're making your investment, but you have a line of sight to when you're going to recover, right? And then you can go and sleep. But that line of sight wasn't clear. So we decided to just stop the refinery and do a quick check. Our plan was that if things were all lined up, we will reopen them and maybe work on them. We realized that we were destroying value also because the crude we're taking into Dangote Refinery, for example, we're coming up with mid-grade products, right? Mid-grade product that when you aggregate their value compared to what you put in was a waste. Now, of course, there were political pressures to keep refinery war running. There was a lot of pressures. And that's, again, what I said, that the blend of people like us who have been trained for over 35 years with blinkers on to look at commerciality and profitability, you can't sleep with that. It's not possible. You can't, right? So, yes, over the years, there's been several reasons. NNPC was the supplier of last results. There were a lot of pressure on being able to maintain continuity and all of that. But we were not under that pressure. And thank God for Dangote Refinery. Thank God. Whether you love Dangote, you hate him, say whatever you want to say. Thank God. And thank God he's a Nigerian. He's not someone from another continent or another planet. Despite everything, that gave us an opportunity because we have a refinery that is working. Yes, may not meet our full needs, but it gives us a breathing space. And luckily, we are shareholders in that refinery as well. So we said, you know, what's the hurry? We have a refinery that is working. Yes, not 100% owned by NNPC, but it's a Nigerian, built in Nigeria, working in Nigeria. Our strategy is to collaborate with the Dangote Refinery and maximize the value delivered to Nigerians. That was our first strategy. And we started doing that. Had a meeting with Alhaji Dangote, explained our situations, and we agreed on the pathway towards deeper collaboration while still maintaining our role as NNPC, being the supplier of last resorts. Dangote is not the supplier of last resort by PIA. So our responsibility is whatever we do, we have to ensure that there is a healthy competition as well. But we need to do what we do. So once we secure that part, we're a little bit more relaxed to ensure that we find out what is going on around the refinery. So the refineries, like I said, after like 2 months of review, we saw that it's just one way. That way is value destruction for the next 30 years. We're not going to do that. So we stopped it completely. And we decided to embark on a major review. And I will explain to all of us, because now I'm more confident. I have learned. I've burnt my fingers and my toes and all of that. I will simplify the refinery story for you all, so that you can tell the story yourself, right? To make the refinery work, you need 3 things. I've simplified it to 3 things. First, you need the financing, because you need to finance the work, finance the activities, and all of that. 2, you need a competent EPC contractor to deliver world-class projects for you that are great. 3, you need a world-class operational capacity to run the refineries. So I'm now clear that why has the Nigerian refinery never worked? This is Bayo's version. Anybody can have their own version. But this is my version. So if I'm wrong, please, I'm happy to be wrong, right? The reason our refineries have not worked is that we are focused on the first 2, EPC and financing. Anybody who wants to do the financing, we all get value for the person financing and not financing you for free, right? They are financing you for margins and profitability. The EPC contractors, they do their work and get paid. So they move on. So you as NNPC are left for the next 20, 30, 40 years to run with those refineries. And we've never really focused on that. What we focused on was, when we came in, there was a lot of conversations around O&M, right? If you look at internationally, when you run an O&M, you must have a solid operational excellence team that can supervise your own O&M. Otherwise, they waste. Then O&M is another contract. So you end up with financing, EPC, O&M, all of them taking money from the system without any skin in the game. There's no way you can sustain any business like that. It's very clear. The system was designed for take, not to put anything in. So what we've decided to do is to focus on that part that has not been there. For those of us who spend years building big facilities, multi-billion-dollar facilities for the IOCs and all of that, we know these principles. The day you start a project, That day you appoint what we call an operational person, operational assurance person, who will be part of that project from the get-go and ensure that whatever you deliver can be operated. One of the privileges I had working in Shell was that I was on the commissioning team for the Qatar gas. From the beginning, during the project phase, I was in the operations readiness team. And far ahead of when the gas plants was to be constructed, I was there twice. We went to audit operational readiness for things that was about to be constructed. The second audit was when they were about 90% completed in the construction. So that you know, and all the things we pointed out was why operability will be a challenge, so that they can fix them. And then you put in the capability, the training, the resources to be able to operate. Remember, for most mega projects, you spend maybe 2-3 years thinking about the project, framing it, if you are very efficient. You spend maybe 3 to 5 years constructing it. You're running for 25, 30, 40, 50 years. So where should your focus be? And that is the one we treat with kids' gloves. So the current NNPC strategy, as approved by our board, is to focus on getting partners that have track record of running a refinery. We are not looking for contractors. We're not looking for O&M. We're looking for an entity that runs refineries. To come in, we're looking forward for them to buy some of our shares. So when you say sell, we will not say we are selling Nigerian refinery. No. Just like we'll probably look at options where you can sell down some of our equity so that they have a skin in the game. And with that, with their operational capacity, we will then cooperate with them. They lead the operation. And then we use that to rebuild our own skills and support. And our mantra for the refinery is our solution is about putting a sustainable solution in place for it to self-finance itself. Thank you very much. Thank you. For it to self-finance itself, for it to run like a business. We know that everywhere in the world, refinery margins are very minute. So there's no way NNPC, the structure we have, we can run a profitable refinery. Forget it. We don't have the capacity right now.
Okay.
We need to bring in additional capacity to complement what we have to run those refineries. So where are we? Incidentally, I'm just coming from a meeting with one of the potential investors where we are looking at their plans. They're going to the refinery tomorrow to go and inspect.
Which one specifically?
Well, because of bidding, commercial sensitivity.
I had to try my luck.
What I can tell is that it's a Chinese company that has one of the biggest petrochemical plants in China.
Okay.
And we also have a few other companies as well.
How much equity are you relinquishing?
We're not sure yet,
okay.
But I can say that we will relinquish as much as required to be able to secure a sustainable deal.
Thank you so much, Engineer Bayo Bashir.
Thank you.